Hello, children, and welcome back to your favorite class of all time with your favorite teacher of all time, me, Mr. Fritz. Today, we're going to learn about unemployment. Oh my goodness, the worst. Nobody wants to lose their job. Here we go. All right, so unemployment. First, a couple words that we need to define. To be unemployed, you have to be somebody who does not have a job but is currently looking for work. To be unemployed, you have to be looking for work. You are not unemployed if you are not looking for a job. So those of you that aren't looking for a job, no, you don't need to call yourself unemployed. You just don't have a job. You're just jobless. All right. If you are not looking for a job because you were in the job search for so long that you gave up, you are a discouraged worker. So, again, a discouraged worker is someone who looked for a job so long that they just stopped, they gave up. That's a discouraged worker. A discouraged worker does not actually count as being unemployed. And so, because of that, sometimes the unemployment rate isn't exactly telling the whole truth. And we'll talk about that a little later. And then underemployed workers, another way that the unemployment rate doesn't exactly tell us the true story on the ground because some people are underemployed. These are people that have a job, but they're either not working full time and they want to, so maybe they get like 20 hours a week, but 20 hours a week, but they really want 40 hours a week. Or maybe they are underemployed because they're overqualified for their job. Their skills aren't being utilized by their current job. Before I got my job as a teacher, I was underemployed in that regard. I was a pizza delivery boy, but I had a master's in education. And that's because I happened to graduate in the midst of the last big recession. So it was kind of tough to get a job at first. And so those are just some of the words that we have here. We have unemployed. You have to be looking for a job to be unemployed. Discouraged, that's when you give up looking, or underemployed, and that's when you have a job, but it's not as good as you want. Maybe not enough hours, or maybe not the job that you actually want or are qualified for. Okay, there are four main types of unemployment that we care about, three that we really, really care about. The first one being frictional unemployment. If you are frictionally unemployed, that means that you're between jobs and you're between jobs for any given reason. Uh, it could be because you quit your job because you didn't like your boss, or you just didn't like the hours you were getting, or maybe your boss fired you because you weren't doing a great job. Any of those reasons. If you're fired for one of those reasons, either fired or quit because you just want a different job, you are frictionally unemployed. And frictional unemployment exists because sometimes it just takes time for people to find a job. Matching people to jobs takes time. They have to get their interview process down. They got to see exactly what they're looking for and find people that fit. Like a job has to find people that fit their business. So that's going to be frictional unemployment. Okay, structural unemployment is going to be there's a couple different ways that you can be structurally unemployed. You can be structurally unemployed if there's more people looking for a job in a particular labor market than there are jobs that exist at that wage rate. Um, it could also be that your job has literally moved and left the country, or maybe a robot took your job. So this means that even when the economy is doing wonderful and we're like in an expansion, structural unemployment can still exist because jobs go away. A great example of this is people that used to work in vehicle manufacturing, like car manufacturing in the Great Lakes region, like maybe in Detroit or Ohio or Michigan or other parts of Michigan. Um, if you worked in car manufacturing in that area, a lot of those jobs have disappeared for two reasons. One, they have a lot more robots and machines involved in making the cars now, so they just don't need as many people. Or the jobs have gone to other parts of the country, like South Carolina or Texas, or have even left the country and gone to places like Mexico because there's in these other places they can pay people less. And so if your job has left the area, you are going to be structurally unemployed. Structurally unemployed. That's what will happen to you. Or another example, your job just doesn't exist anymore. When I was a child, around the corner from my house, there was a VCR repairman. He had a storefront, and his job was to repair VCRs. That man is structurally unemployed now. There's just not a demand like that for a VCR repairman right now. VCRs don't exist at this point, other than people that are buy them for nostalgia purposes or like collectors. All right, there's another one that just isn't. We're going to talk about this, but it's not going to come up too much in the class after this unit. Seasonal unemployment. I'd say we all know someone who has been seasonally unemployed at some point or another. This is when there's a limited need for that type of work to be performed during particular times of year. So people that work at SeaWorld or Fiesta Texas right now that it's getting ready to be winter, if you're not working now because they don't need you anymore, you're seasonally unemployed. They just don't need as many people during the winter because they're either not open or they're at less capacity. Also, Best Buy does a lot of seasonal hiring from November until January during the Christmas holiday season when they have a lot of business. And so they'll hire people and fire them in January. And so if you work just from November to January, you're also seasonally unemployed. Cyclical unemployment is the most important one. This is the one that we care about the most. This is unemployment that is correlated with the business cycle, which I taught you before. Remember, we have our trough, our expansion, our peak, and then our contraction. A contraction being another word for recession. And so this is unemployment that's correlated with the business cycle, and it's any deviation from the natural rate of unemployment. I'll explain what the natural rate of unemployment is in a moment. Lower growth is going to be correlated with higher unemployment, aka when we go into a recession, businesses start laying people off. And when that happens, those people are cyclically unemployed. So this is when the economy is doing terribly and you lose your job. That's what cyclical unemployment is going to be. Okay, so the natural rate of unemployment. Frictional and structural unemployment are always going to be present. They are natural. There's always going to be people that are frictionally unemployed between jobs because they quit or they got fired because they just weren't good at the job. And there's always going to be people that are structurally unemployed because just think like we're always going to be adding new technology to production. So jobs are just going to go away because of that. And people will end up being structurally unemployed. So these make up the natural rate of unemployment. They're going to exist. So your natural rate of unemployment is always going to be made up of frictional unemployment plus structural unemployment. Your actual unemployment rate is going to be what we really care about, and that's going to be your natural unemployment plus your cyclical unemployment, those together. All right, so when we go back here, so the cyclical unemployment rate is going to be any deviation from the natural rate. So that's going to be any unemployment that goes above our natural rate of unemployment, which again is made up of our frictional and structural unemployment. So anything based on a change or a downturn in the business cycle. Our natural unemployment rate is going to tend to be around 5%. So that means that when we are at full employment, we expect to have a 5% unemployment rate. You need to keep that in mind, that full employment does not mean that every single person that wants a job has a job. It means that we are only experiencing natural unemployment, aka frictional plus structural. All right, and then finally, I've got a couple formulas that you need to write down. These are unemployment formulas. So first, there's the labor force. Your labor force is going to be made up of the people that are unemployed and looking for a job, plus the people that are already employed and have a job. That's going to be the labor force. Labor force is made up of the people that don't have a job and are currently looking, plus the people that have a job. So your labor force participation rate then is going to be the percentage of adults over the age of 16 that are in the labor force. So it's going to be your labor force divided by the entire adult population, people 16 and over. So labor force divided by adult population times 100. And then finally down here at the bottom, the biggest one, the one that you're going to have to remember and memorize for the rest of the year for forever, our unemployment rate. This is the percentage of people that are in the labor force who are unemployed and looking for a job. So your unemployment rate is going to be equal to, oops, now we can't see. Your unemployment rate is going to be equal to the number of unemployed people who are looking for a job divided by the entire labor force times 100. Okay, and now we're going to get into a little bit of practice problems here so I can show you how this really works.